तो अपन लोग आज जो अपन लोग लास्ट टाइम कर रहे थे उस पर कंटिन्यू करने वाले हैं, एंड दैट इज़ नेटवर्किंग। लेकिन आज का अपना टॉपिक इंटायरली सेम रहने वाला तो नहीं है, लेकिन यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड। ओके, तो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल अपने को आई वांट टू गो ओवर दिस। सो इन टोटल देर आर टू, just write this. So 2 to the 32nd power. This is how many IP addresses we have in total. Okay, so this translates to roughly 4.3 billion. Okay, this roughly equals 4.3 billion. Okay, so this is roughly how much this is exactly. अगर आपको exact figure होना है तो this is about 4,294,967,296. ओके, सो अपने पास टोटल इतने आईपी एड्रेसेस रहने वाले, इतने आईपी एड्रेसेस हैं. दिस इज द लंप सम ऑफ IP addresses. Okay, so this is all the amount of network addresses including every binary form. So अपन इससे ज़्यादा IP addresses अपने IPv4 में अपने को नहीं मिलते. तो I will get rid of this. Okay, so what am I trying to explain here? Well, since there are this many IP addresses, अपन लोग क्या करते थे, लोग को स्प्लिट कर दिए थे into classes. For classes I will use something that has better grids. Okay, so we have class A. Okay, A is all IP addresses from 1.0.0.0 to 126.255.255.255. So this is class A. Okay, and then we have class B. क्लास बी में अपने पास 128 से 128.0.0.0 all the way to 191.255.0.0. This is class B. So this is class C. Okay, so this is class C. So most of us will have this class C IP address. This is 192.0.0.0 all the way to 233.225.255.255.0. Okay, so and then there is class D. So class D, which is 224.0.0.0 to 239.255.255.255. Okay, फाइनली वी हैव क्लास ई. ये लास्ट क्लास है, इसके बाद और कौन से भी क्लासेस नहीं है. ओके, क्लास ई. अभी अपन लोग कंप्लीट सबनेटिंग पे फोकस नहीं करें, अपन लोग खाली बेसिक्स करने वाले हैं आज. सो 240.0.0.0 ऑल द वे टू द कैप बोले तो मैक्सिमम IP एड्रेस. सो 255 255.255.255. So these first IP addresses those IP addresses, let me draw this better. Okay, these IP addresses, these are what we call public IP address. These are what we call these are accessible IP addresses. Accessible IP addresses, as in ये IP addresses अपने पास use कर सकते हैं. And this one, so उसके बाद अपने पास class D का है. Class D is for MIC. Okay, so what do I mean by this? It is multicast communication. Okay, so let's just write the full form. Multicast communication. So MCC, sorry. And then this last part is what we call experimental. So no one has access to class D or E. Okay, so we can only access A, B, and C. So what they did was they would give these IP addresses. Keep in mind, this is the cap. Okay, this is the maximum amount of IP addresses we can have. This is the maximum amount. So what they did, these are all IP addresses for the internet, not for private. जैसा कि जब अपन लोग IF config मारते तो अपने को ये पूरा IP addresses आते हैं, inet 6, inet 4. I think this is mine. Yeah. So there is 4 million IP addresses, right? So they would give some. So each. So let's go into subnet masks first. So अगर आप Windows पे है, which most of you are probably on Windows, when you write in IP config, तो आप लोग को IP config मारे तो आपके IP addresses आते हैं. When you type in IP config, you get this. In one section there will be IP address. So it will say IP address. Then IP address के बाद अपना IP address लिखे हुआ रहता. So suppose your IP address is 192.168.0.12. Okay, and let's say that your subnet mask is 190, not 192. So your subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. That is your subnet mask, and this is your gateway. Your gateway is 192.168.0.1. So let's just first get into the reason IP addresses are the way they are. Okay, so there are, in all networks, there are 2 IP addresses we cannot use. One IP address is the first IP address. So for this network, so let's say this. Okay, let's go into host bits first because it will make some more sense. अपन लोग पहले network and host bits में आ जाएंगे. So when we have an IP address, so 192.168.0.1. 0 dot let's say 21. Okay, so let's get into network and host bits. So this also has a role on the subnet mask. Okay, तो अपना सबनेट मास्क बोल रहा कि अपने नेटवर्क में होस्ट बिट्स कितने हैं और नेटवर्क बिट्स कितने हैं. So this is, if we have this many host bits, we will have exactly 2 to the 8th power IP addresses. So we will have 2 to 8. This is how many IP addresses you will have in your network, which is exactly 256. This is exactly how many IP addresses you will have in your network if this is your subnet mask. So how do we know this? हर क्लास के पास except for the last two, ये आखिरी दो के पास subnet mask रहता ही नहीं. So in class A, let's also write this down. Let's type this. In class A, the subnet mask is, हमेशा का प्रॉब्लम है इसका. Okay, I'm going to move this for now. Class A has subnet. Okay. This is the everlasting problem with AutoDraw. It never works. Okay. 255. यहाँ पर okay, perfect. Okay, so class A has a subnet mask. I'll just write this down here. Class A has a subnet is 255.0.0.0, which is, so let's illustrate this. In theory, you can have, so most class A IP addresses use 10 dot. Okay, so let's use that. So 10 dot, this will all be host bits. तो अपने पास कितने host रह सकते हैं? It is roughly 2 to the power of 8 to the power of 2, so it's roughly 16 million. Okay, this is the exact number we can calculate, which it would be 2 to the 32nd power. Right, it will be 2 to the power of 32. No, that's wrong. It's 2 to the power of 8 times 3, which is 24. So 2 to the power of 24. So it's 16,777,216. This is how many IP addresses there are in a class A network. So it makes sense, जब अगर अपने पास एक really बड़ी company है, तो obviously, as in like we have millions of employees in the single country and we want to use a single network, we will obviously want to give them at least this many IP addresses, right? So what happens is अपन लोग ये IP addresses उनको दे दिए. They can use these IP addresses. They can add hosts, and there's only one network bit in this. So what do I mean by network bit? Your subnet mask defines your network bit. तो अगर आपका subnet mask 255.0.0 है और it is more than likely that your IP address is something that goes like 10 dot 10.3.4.5. Okay, you know what, let's actually just use a bigger font in text because that is not readable. Really big. Really big text. We have 10.0, we have 10.1.2.3. okay, and what you do down here is your subnet mask defines your network bit. So jidhar bhi 255 रहेगा, that is going to be a network bit. So for every device in the network, this 10 will not change for this subnet. So this 1 2 3 can change, लेकिन ये 10 change नहीं होता for this subnet. Okay, but what if you have a different subnet? Like suppose you have a 10.255.255.255.255.0. More than likely your IP address will be 192.168.1.12. okay, suppose this is your IP address. तो अपने पास क्या आ जाता है बल्कि बोलो तो we will have, this is a network bit, so n, this is a network bit, this is a network bit, and this is a host bit. So for the entire network this will stay the same. तो अपने नेटवर्क में जितने भी डिवाइसेस रहेंगे उन लोगों को ये फर्स्ट 3 कैरेक्टर्स हमेशा यही रहेंगे, उसके बाद ये हमेशा बदलते हुए रहेंगे. ओके, सो वी कैंट हैव like it's the same thing as phone numbers, suppose. Okay, suppose this is your country code, this is your state code, your provider, and then this is your IP address, suppose. So that allows us to have basically that many IP addresses. लेकिन problem ये है, with the internet growing so fast, all of these IP addresses were public, right? तो कोई भी access कर सकते, कोई भी जो ये अगर किसी के पास भी एक IP address है, they can access the internet. So what do I mean by this would have been very bad? तो क्यों बोल के बोले तो with the tech जब अपना बढ़ा and a lot more devices have been created and are being used, keep in mind that we cannot use all of these IP addresses. Okay, so this is roughly 224 to 255. So that's almost like a fifth बोल सकते आप. This is a lot of IP addresses already not available. Okay, and then what happens is these are our usable IP addresses. तो मसला क्या हो गया बोल के बोले तो we have a lot of devices लेकिन अपने पास we don't have enough IP addresses. So this value quickly became 0. And if not for this next thing that I'm going to mention, अपना IP addresses, अपना internet, this wouldn't be a thing. मैं इससे मीन क्या कर रहा हूँ कि when we had so that's recording. Okay, so what do I mean by that is if we don't have all of these IP addresses, then we can't connect to the internet and all of the IP addresses are used. So only a select variety of people that have had an IP address for a while are the only people that can access internet. But that's bad, right? कहीं को बोल के बोलो तो we like accessing the internet. We need to use internet. अपने को थोड़े लोगों को jobs के लिए internet use करना पड़ता है, लेकिन that's fairly new considering back in the day there wasn't really that much of a fad around internet, right? Some people use it for entertainment, थोड़े लोगों को उसमें work करना रहता. Some people use it to download songs. Some people use it to watch movies. Everything. लेकिन and then we have the corporate companies. Corporate companies with 16 million IP addresses that they can use. So what happens? We have to do something called private IP addresses. It was issued, there was something called REC 1980 or something. I don't remember the exact ID, but there is a thing that introduces this thing called private IP addresses. So we have these some classes that we can use for IP addresses. So we have so the way this will work, I'm not going to go exactly into what exactly how this works. These are A, B, and C are the only accessible networks in private IP addressing. But the thing is, when we have an private IP address, there will be a gateway. Okay, this is our gateway. This is us. And suppose this is the internet. Okay, this is the internet. So the internet will give us exactly one public IP address. So one public IP address is given. Okay, why only one? Because if we give more than one, we will have the same problem again. तो अपन लोग क्या avoid करना चाह रहे हैं one देके अपने को. The thing is, if we only have one IP address per router, we can still browse the internet, but individually we can have any IP address. So suppose 1.2.3.4, this can be our IP address. In theory it won't really be, and we will all have a public address of suppose 101.64. Dot 55 dot 3. This is an IP address, a private IP address that all of us have, public IP addresses that all of us have. So I want to access the internet. Okay, I will say that I want to go to suppose google.com. Okay, I want to write google.com. And I make a request. Okay, I send a request to my router saying, hey router, Mr. Router, I want to go to google.com. So think of the internet as its own network. Okay, internet is just a enlarged बोल सकते आप, it is just an extended network. बहुत बड़ा network है, उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा contents है, more contents than our human minds can imagine. So what we do is we say I want to go to google.com. तो अपन लोग राउटर को ये प्राइवेट आईपी एड्रेस से रिक्वेस्ट भेजते. ओके, दिस इज आवर प्राइवेट आईपी एड्रेस. we will send a request saying I want to go to google.com. So the router, so us, we will send, our computer will send it to router. यहाँ राउटर में सेव होता हो. It first checks if google.com is a network host. So suppose we have another host. I'm going to draw another host. This is me, okay? This is me. And he is another host. He has an IP address of 7 dot no, because we have to have a network bit. His IP address is 1.2.3.5, okay, because 4 and then 5. We will go over how IP addresses are assigned as well. So first what it will check is, since Immi is also connected to the internet with his computer, what it will check first is, first on the router, it will check if this is a list, is one of the hosts in this server. So it will check if it's a host inside of our network. And when it finds out that it isn't, तो अपन लोग google.com को जाना है, right? So we will go into there. Now this google.com is actually just a simple domain to help us remember. We can actually find the IP address of google.com legally. All you have to do is just ping google.com and you can see the IP address. It is this. So if you copy this and paste it into Google, so if I paste it, so if I make a new tab and then I come up here and then I paste it, it will take us straight to google.com. So what all this is it is a list. This network is also just a list of servers. तो ये इंटरनेट में अपने पास और सर्वर्स रहते, ये सर्वर्स आर जस्ट लुकअप सर्वर्स. So there is one server that tries to see if it has google.com सेव नहीं है, तो नेक्स्ट सर्वर को पास करता. नेक्स्ट सर्वर बोलता मेरे को एक जना मालूम जिसको मालूम है रह सकता. इट्स लाइक सेइंग, suppose there is a guy trying to deliver a package, okay? उनको सपोज उनको खाली नाम मालूम है उनका, तो उनको बोलते भाई मेरे को लतीफ़ भाई को ये पैकेज देना है. तो उन्होंने जाते, he will go up to a person and he will ask, do you know where लतीफ़ भाई lives? तो उन्होंने बोलते no, I don't know where लतीफ़ lives. तो उन्होंने क्या बोलते, लेकिन मेरे को मालूम कि इसको मालूम रहता होगा बोल के बोले उन्होंने. तो उन्होंने दूसरे कन जाते, he will ask, do you know where he lives? No, but I know this guy, he can tell you. तो वैसे कंटिन्यू होता रहता until he either reaches लतीफ़ भाई or he reaches a higher up official that knows everyone by name और उन्होंने point कर दे. A good example of how the internet works. We will go into how this exactly works. लेकिन ये google.com का अपन लोग request बने, तो we will send it back in there. It will come here and then we can send it into this. We can send it back to Azam because Azam has made the request. So he can view google.com. So another scenario is when we change the etc host. So in Mac and Linux you have an etc host. I don't know exactly where Windows में etc host file रहती, लेकिन host file is just a long table, okay? अपन लोग खुद के hosts बना सकते based on an IP address. So we can have any IP address saved as anything. So what it means by this, there's also a kind of a server on our computer, and you might have noticed one more thing. अपन लोग यहाँ पर 126 पर रुक के फिर यहाँ 128 पर कंटिन्यू करें, तो you might be confused where 172 is. I mean 127. 127. So when I said we will go over loopback later, when we write if config, loopback is always going to be the first one. Loopback is 16 million IP addresses. Loopback is 16 million IP addresses that you can use to contact yourself. You can ping 127.127.0.0.1 and it will it's like sending a message to yourself, and there are 16 million other IP addresses for that. So You can also do 255.331.6, and it would always. Oh, that's interesting. Because the last time I tried that, it would give us a message. Oh, that's interesting. Because every time अपन लोग जब loopback को अपने message देते, we usually get the message back instantly. So that's strange. But I don't know why that's happening, because usually when you send a loopback to yourself, it is 16 million total addresses जो अपन लोग use कर सकते खुद को message करने. So it's just loopback, as in it loops always back to you. It's like a wormhole. So you go, so it sends a message to the loopback. I'm pretty sure just doesn't go to the router. Like it will just keep messaging yourself. Okay, it will keep sending 64 bytes of data. So like a small packet of contents to see if a connection can be made. It's like sending a letter to see if the letter ultimately arrives or not. Okay. So with that, I want to check for questions. Any questions anyone has? Why do we need IP address for internet when we have Why do we need IP address for internet when we have a portable USB as a Wi-Fi? Because IP address is like a name, phone number, anything. You can't contact. अगर आपने को आप बोल के बोलना है कि मेरे को I want to call, सपोज आई वांट टू कॉल ए नंबर, लेकिन मेरे पास फ़ोन नंबर नहीं है, मेरे को बिना फ़ोन नंबर के उनको कॉल नहीं कर सकते आप. सो फॉर द सेम रीज़न you will need that phone number to call the other person. So that is why we need internet or an IP address. Any other questions? Do we have to memorize? No, we just have to memorize the ranges. Okay, we have to memorize these ranges. So class A is 1.0.0 to 128.192. That is the classes. I will ask questions on this. A subnet mask is basically defining our network bits and our host bits. As in network bits as in ये network address क्या है, और host bits as in host address क्या है. Actually मैं इसको explain करना भूल गया शायद, लेकिन we have two addresses that in every network that are not accessible. So if we are in the 192 network, so if we are in class C and our IP address goes along the lines of 192.168.30.40.50, whatever it is, we can say 48 text 192.168. Suppose 1.12. There are usually 3 IP addresses you cannot access. The first IP address is the network address. The network address is 192.168. So the 3 network bits .0. This is our network address. This IP address can never be assigned to any device on the network. And then we have the next one. This is called as the broadcast address. So broadcast address का काम ये रहता कि वो सबको मैसेज करता, kind of like group chat, if you will. .120.12, and then so we have 12, and then we have the network address, so 192.168.0.1.0. This is our network address. This is our broadcast address. 192.168.1.255. So the broadcast address is exactly उसका नाम क्या होता है. It will message everyone on the network. If you send a ping to 192.168.1.255, it will try to ping every single person on the network. तो उन्हें सबको मैसेज भेज देने की कोशिश करता. And then we have the router's IP address. So router's IP address is actually more customizable. You can change your gateway address to a point. um, it's a pretty cool feature है, लेकिन ज़्यादा यूज़ नहीं होता. Usually it's always the first address in your network. So it would go along the lines of 192.168.1. So this is our network, and then .1. This would be our network. This would be our router's IP address, and you can't change that. So you can't really change that, because you can change that for some routers. It just depends on how you want to use it. You can also change the entire network address, like that requires some technical know-how. I wouldn't recommend that, by the way. You can also change your network address so you can't get pinged from inside of the network. So also a cool feature. तो अगर अपना नेटवर्क 192.168.1.12 है, अपन लोग 192.168.2.12 कर ले सकते हैं अपने नेटवर्क को, and we won't get pinged by anyone inside 192.168.1.12. It's cool because that way it's, you can private out yourself. No one does it, and it's not even that important of a feature, but it's there. So yeah, these are 3 IP addresses that cannot be used in any scenario. आप इसको कैसा भी यूज नहीं कर सकते. Does VPN change IP address? VPN changes private IP address so that it connects to a different router, which changes your public IP address. So right now my IP address is something, my private IP address is something along the lines of 10.0.0. something. Okay, I don't remember my last address, but it's 10.0.0. and or whatever. जब मैं मेरा VPN को कनेक्ट करता हूँ, दिस इज माई ट्राई हैक मी VPN. बाद में जब अपन लोग लैब्स और रूम्स करते तो अपने को ये काम में आता. This is my private IP address which connects me to a completely different router. Okay, so if I do this, now my IP address is 192.168.174.39. so it's 174.39. okay, this IP address is just private, and to access it you would need this regular confirmation. And when I use this, it thinks that I'm in Europe ke IP address है. So there, yeah, that's how it works. Any other questions? So these IP addresses are just for knowledge though, right? So cybersecurity पे अपना one of the main concepts is networking. So we will need to get familiar with IP addresses. क्यों बोल के बोले तो जब अपने को network attacks target करना है, तो we need to know someone's IP address. We need to know how to discover IP addresses. IP address देख के अपन लोग confuse ना हो सकते. क्यों बोल के बोले तो IP addresses are one of the building blocks, you can say, of networking and cybersecurity. क्यों बोल के बोले तो networking is a required skill for almost every IT position, so it is something you need to learn anyway. Any other questions? Okay. I think that will be it for today then. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and Assalamu alaikum. Allah Hafiz.